digitally, though, so I'm going to throw something out at you right now. I want to keep everybody awake, so everyone stand up again. Stand up again. Look to the person to your right. Say, hello, competitor. Hello, competitor, right? What are we all competing for here today? Everyone's competing for attention. I think that's what one of the themes of today was. We have to break through, create our brands, and create and attract attention. So I think that's what we're going to talk about. You can sit down now, thank you for taking my order, and let's get into the personal branding, mix here. We talked a lot about it, but it's how we all can make ourselves stand out using the tools that we talked about today. And that's one of the topics I love to talk about. So.
Right, I'm going to do a quick introduction for these fine esteemed gentlemen. I'm going to start in the center here with Jeff Namnum. He is the principal of a company called No Fancy Name. I like him. He consults with brands and startups on no-nonsense, effective growth strategies. He speaks regularly on modern marketing. Most recently, really, something I should rest for the Canadian Consulate's Technology Accelerator, and even does one-on-one consulting for executives and founders on personal branding issues. So let's welcome Jeff.
Very low sound, so you got to be strong with the microphone.
Thank you.
Tommy Spero here on the left. Really?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You can hear me? No, you can hear me. Tommy Spero is the principal and creative director of Soul NYC. It's a boutique digital agency, and his experience working with some of the world's biggest brands gives him unique insight on how businesses can succeed through the use of design and technology. He's a frequent speaker and contributing author for online and print publications, and is currently working on his first book. So let's welcome Tommy. Just so we know, Bill Corbett on the end here is a PR person, and he's given me 12 paragraphs to read, so just, Just
read the first one.
Just the first? Bill Corbett Jr. is the president of Corbett Public Relations, Long Island's public relations firm. The firm specializes in media relations, personal branding, and LinkedIn consulting. Using experience, skill, creativity, and personal media contacts, the firm secures valuable media coverage for Long Island-based clients and businesses from across the nation. This year alone, the firm's clients have been covered by Fox News, Fox Business, MSNBC, CNNMoney.com, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, AP, Newsday. Damn.
Rolling. Newsday's not bad.
Yeah, no. Long Island Business News, and hundreds of other media outlets. For close to 25 years, Bill Corbett, I gotta read it as it's written, has been assisting businesses, entrepreneurs, and nonprofit groups to grow their organizations and personal brands. So, yeah, no, that's not it. So, welcome, Bill. Yeah, I apologize. That's just based on the very loud. Listen, first, thank you very much for coming today, and thank you for hanging out till the end to learn a bit about personal branding. So I want to put out there this question. First of all, can one of you, please, define for our fine esteemed audience what personal branding really is? Who wants to go first? Bill?
Personal branding is very simple. It's how your community, your business sector, and the people around you view you. What your reputation is, and what your basically what your reputation and how people perceive you, rightly or wrongly. It could be a good perception or wrong, and you might have to correct it if it's wrong.
Are we all answered?
Go right ahead. If you've got something to add, by all means, add it.
No, that's cool.
Okay, so that's a good definition of personal branding. So let's talk about what's the biggest mistake people make when branding themselves online.
I'm big on consistency, and I think whether it's you personally or you're representing your business, a lot of times you see a lot of disparate messages. You say things in different ways. You're not very consistent in the thoughts you're trying to get out. From a visual standpoint, which I think is how most people perceive a brand, maybe your website doesn't look like your business card, or your logo is from 5 years ago, you got a new logo, you didn't update it. So just being inconsistent, I think, is a mistake, whether that's in the words that you use or in the messages or visuals that you put out.
Anyone else? Bill, Jeff?
I've been really lucky. Wow, this is a lot louder. Hello. I've been really lucky in having an opportunity to counsel different executives and different founders in their personal brand. And the one consistent thing I see is that people don't really understand the value that they bring to their clients. Right? We're really used to helping our clients figure out their deal, but we have a hard time figuring out our own deal. Right? You sit down and now you're going to build your website around your brand. You're going to decide what your persona is, what your voice is, and how you're going to speak. And it is actually a much bigger challenge to work on your own brand than on someone else's. So it is always a good idea to get help. It's a big mistake to do it alone.
I think I'll round it out with basically what you're saying is you need a plan. You need a plan for your brand. How many people here have a marketing plan for themselves? Okay, that's great, because this group is very proactive. Most groups I go to, 5 out of 20 people raise their hands. We all work for other companies, but you remember, you are your own brand. You have to defend your brand and grow your brand throughout your career. It's about you. It's not about who you work for. Unless you own a business, of course, then it's all about you.
Yes, ma'am.
Did everybody hear her? The question basically is, the concept of a brand plan is very interesting. How do you go about setting up a brand plan for yourself? Right? And for yourself, I'm assuming that are you a solopreneur? Are you running a startup? What are you doing? Okay. Service, product? So you build a product. So you're building a brand plan for your company that builds a product, or are you building a brand plan for your product?
I'm selling jewelry, so I don't know what you call it. It's me, it's my design.
Will you sell more than jewelry? Will you only sell jewelry? Are you setting up a company to sell?
I have a company already, and I want to kind of like streamline my brand. I want to update my brand, and so having a brand plan seems like a good idea. I mean, I am what I sell. It's me. It's my design. It's like a designer that, you know, you buy Donna Karan or you buy Ralph Lauren. I mean, you know what you're buying is associated with who designed it.
Well, I totally agree. When you have a product like that that's personal, that doesn't use Coco Chanel or something like that, where it's kind of named after a person and it's developed the brand over time. The brand plan that I recommend, one is you have to identify obviously your mission statement. What are you about? But it's not just what you're about in terms of business. It's also your passion statement. So I combine the two. Mission statement, business, passion statement. What are you passionate about in life? It can be anything from climbing skyscrapers to parachuting or skydiving, whatever. And if you combine them, that's fantastic. But they can be separate, but you can always be passionate about what you do. Two, you always have to have goals. What do you want to achieve? We talked a lot today about getting Twitter followers and likers. That can be a goal. I want 100,000, Twitter followers. I want to make 25,000 LinkedIn connections, whatever. So you have goals, but you also have sales goals. And you also have marketing goals. And they don't have to all be dollar. And so you have your goal, your mission, your goals, and then your infrastructure is what we kind of talked about today. All the different things, Tumblr, to StumbleUpon, to G+, to Twitter. That's your marketing infrastructure and how you use it. Those are basically the first couple of steps that I would recommend, to get to the next level of launching that plan, but you at least have a baseline.
from a visual standpoint, I think you have to think about all the places, if you're talking about a logo, let's say that's the first component of your brand. You have to think about all the places it's going to live. A lot of times we see logos, they look fantastic on a gigantic screen projected, but when you print it on a business card, it's very small. It completely falls apart. So you have to think about the places it's going to appear. And those things ultimately in our business we call it an identity kit. So you have a business card, you may have a letterhead, you may have an envelope, you may have some other types of communications that you put out there. How's it going to look on your email when you use Constant Contact or whatever else? So that's the type of thing that we look at when we're doing the visual part of it. But to Bill's point about the mission, that's the thing that drives the business. I think if you take any of these hugely successful companies, they've got some mission that's written on a wall in their offices, and every single person in the company to do their job successfully has to believe that. They have to live and breathe it. This is why Zappos is so successful, and I'm sure at Facebook they've got some sort of secret sauce or credo that they all live by. Those are the types of things that I think is the DNA of a brand, which is what Bill's getting at. And anybody, whether you're a solo guy or you're a multi-million-dollar Fortune 500 company, you have to have a core set of values that drives what you do every day.
So, just going back to, you talked about the brand plan and goals. Are getting 1,000 followers or 1 million followers on Twitter a goal for somebody trying to build a brand, or is that just a byproduct? Thank you.
Thank you. No, I think it's a goal. Or, obviously the goal at the end of the day is to make money in most cases, but how do you get there? And all the strategies that we're talking about today are how you get followers, get engagement, and build relationships. Why do people build relationships? Because they want to do business with people, and people want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust, right? We talked about today is all the different ways you build relationships to get to know people. Hopefully they'll get to like you, and at some point when they cross over that trust barrier, that they start doing business with you or referring you, or they listen to you and you become that influencer that we talked about today. So it's a bit of a process when you're building a personal brand, to build that likability and to build that trust with people. And sometimes it has to be done one-on-one, kind of Amy's version, and sometimes it can be larger, like some of the other speakers we had today.
So it's a
I have a question. For people who aren't solo entrepreneurs and they have a job, do they need a personal brand? And why?
I'm going to relate this back to the previous question, right? Do they need a brand? Nobody needs a brand. Okay, nobody needs anything. Goal, right? And it's a real pet peeve of mine. A plan has to start from goal, what it is that you want to accomplish. Ideally, if you're going into business, it has some monetary value attached to it. Hopefully, it has some mission-based value to it, right? You want to change the world or help your customers do some darn thing, hopefully, other than just make money, right? From the goal, you need objectives that are going to get you to that goal, things that you can measure along the way. I want to make $100,000 this year. Well, every quarter, I better have made 25 grand, right? Because if you're at the end of the first quarter and you're at 5 grand, you're not on target for your goal, right? So goals, objectives, and then strategies, then all this other stuff. The identity kit, the what social outputs should I be involved with? All that stuff is strategy, and we tend to jump into strategies, especially when we're solopreneurs or smaller business owners, or individuals working at a company thinking about building my skill set, right? We tend to jump into strategies without having a clue what our goals are. And that I think is a disaster if it happens all too often.
On the career angle, I was talking to and working with a couple of young associate attorneys at a larger law firm, and they were struggling to be networkers and meet people, and they were starting to get into social and LinkedIn. And for them, they want to move up at that firm. They want to become a partner. They don't want to be an associate. So they're using social media and using networking to to build their brand as a reputable, well-known attorney in that community, as well as bring in business. So and these social outreach activities will build your relationships, you will bring in business. And I tell you, if you have 1,500 LinkedIn followers and you go to your boss, or you go to another company for a job interview and you're competing against somebody who has 200, that's very limited social activity, very few contacts and followers, you're a competitive advantage when you have more followers, more voice online, and more activity than someone who doesn't. And that is a valuable asset that you can carry with you in your career with one company, or with, when you move to another company. And I'm going to tell you, especially kids nowadays, or even leaving college, and half the presidential campaign, half the kids who graduate aren't going to get jobs. Those kids who come out of college with a lot of contacts and a lot of recommendations and a lot of activity online, not social stuff, but more business-oriented and education-focused, are going to fall on the side of people who get jobs. So it's definitely an advantage in the job search.
So let me ask you this. Wait, okay.
You.
Yeah, Jeff.
You.
Yeah.
No, this young lady here with the big smile, we're talking about not having a job, getting out of college. What?
You have a question?
I just graduated college last May.
Yeah.
I am working, doing a year of service for AmeriCorps.
Cool.
So
You blogging about it?
I'm.
You blogging about it?
So you just put her on the spot for now.
No, totally. Because this is, in terms of personal brand, that's it. You want a secret sauce? Especially coming out of college? He's right. Are you blogging about it? Are you recording the experiences that you are developing in that year of service? See, and that's awesome.
Juliet and Julia, where she blogs every day, Julia Child's recipes from her book, right? Classic, if you haven't seen it, it's a classic example of personal branding to get what you want in your career.
So what are 3 things, I want each of you to give out one thing that people can do to get what they want, to build their brand. What's one thing they can go home and do tonight? Each of you, one thing. Tommy first. He's been very quiet.
You didn't give me any time to think about that question.
No, that's okay.
I think one thing that every single person here can do to build their brand is think about how you want people to perceive you. Because as Ted Rubin mentioned very early at 9 o'clock this morning, perception is reality. So if you want to be the person, whether you work inside of a company or you are a solopreneur, if you work inside of a company, maybe you're the person who always fills the pot of coffee when it's done, who always makes a fresh pot of coffee. Think about how you want to be perceived. That should be the driving force for whatever it is your brand winds up being in the end. But think about how you want people to think of you, whether it's in public, whether it's in digital, whether it's in your day-to-day life with family and friends.
Don't suck. Okay? There are so many of us that waste so much of our career and our lives doing crap that we suck at and we hate. Stop. Do something. If you're stuck in a job where you have to do that to pay the bills, I got 3 kids, I get that, right? You got to feed them because they eat all the time, right? Then do something on the side with your spare time, at home, before you go to sleep. Something that you are awesome at. I don't care if it's making cookies, I don't care if it's building birdhouses, something that you rock at. And film it. Take a picture of it. Blog about it. Do something where you have created a physical record of this thing that you rock at. And begin to build a little stream of, a little trail of who you really are. Because eventually, you'll be able to make money at that. Because I love Rick's talk, okay? Because there are these micro communities everywhere. And these micro communities are profitable to someone, right? So if you rock at something, do it. Don't just do the thing you suck at that pays you money. Do something that you're great at and build some competency around it and show people you're great.
So the official hashtag for that is
Don't suck.
Don't suck.
Yes, I'm stealing don't suck. It's, I don't like to use negatives, I like to be awesome at it and better. My number one thing is, and here a lot of people, we talk, I'm mostly in the B2B world, so I do work a lot in LinkedIn. And I think the number one practical thing that you can do today is make sure your LinkedIn account is 100% and make it an Uber LinkedIn account by optimizing it think about what the content in that LinkedIn profile is. Does it mention what you do, how you do it, your accomplishments? But it also does it mention some of the things that you don't suck at, or you're awesome at? You know, I like to do certain things. I have that, like barbecuing and grilling and making barbecue sauce and stuff like that. But I include that in my LinkedIn profile.
The personal stuff is also
The next action camp will actually be at a camp and we'll have a barbecue. So, so those are my two things. You know, really optimize your LinkedIn account because that's where employers and other people. Your LinkedIn account page is where your personal brand lives.
Okay, so here's the question. So we've optimized our LinkedIn profile. We don't suck. And the perception of us online is that we're really good.
Not sucky.
Not sucky. How do we know that's working for our potential clients or our audience? How do we know that's our brand is resonating with them?
Well, I think now we can actually ask them, and we can find out immediately whether or not it's resonating. So if you write a blog post about something and it's not getting any traction, you're tweeting it all over the place, and maybe what you spoke about just isn't resonating with that audience. So constantly ask, constantly reinvent. You know, Ford, the guy from Ford sat here today and said they knew that they sucked for 3 decades, the 80s and 90s and the early 2000s, and they reinvented themselves simply because they knew the cars weren't selling. Okay, that's a big indicator, but in the day-to-day stuff, if you're not getting any traction, you know that what you're doing isn't working and try something else. That's the beauty of all of this, is that you can constantly reinvent.
Part of marketing is feedback, shifting, morphing, changing. No marketing plan necessarily needs to be set in stone. Has anyone caught on to the new endorsements on LinkedIn? That's a little bit of a way to find out what you don't suck at, because people are endorsing you for some activities, and you can endorse other people for that. So that's a little bit. And again, if people are liking the stuff that you're posting, people are retweeting stuff, then you're in the right direction. If not, you got to shift it a little bit.
All right, I'm going to disagree. A little bit. Just a little bit, right? Asking gets you so far, right? Watching reactions gets you so far. And while I am very much in my heart, right? I'm very much a social marketer. I believe in the humanity of marketing, and it's very cool, right? I love where we are, that people are back in control. I love that. However, data. There's so much data. There's so much data, right? If you, what is it? Is everybody in marketing? Anybody in marketing in the crowd? All right, any small business owners? Okay, the rest, okay, we got a student in the year service, which thank you, okay. Any other students? All right, okay, cool. Small business owners, marketers, this should not be anything to do with you, but small business owners, especially if you don't have the budget to hire a marketer, you need to take a Google Analytics course yesterday. Some reputable online at your leisure Google Analytics course. You need to understand at some degree how to parse, how to understand the data, right? How to make sense of the data. Because if you realized how much data Google is feeding you for nothing on your websites, okay, or your Etsy page or whatever it is that you're using, you'd be shocked. You can tell what works. You can tell what's selling. You can tell why it's selling. Okay? And when you take that data, the understanding of the data, and you have the appropriate respect for your consumer, and you marry those two things, that's how you're going to know what's working. Right? You can't be data. Yeah.
Bill, I guess this for you. Is there a risk in the company being a little too digital? Because you deal with, and I say it for you because you deal with different types of business, and we're kind of in our bubble, we're digital people here, but you know, most of the world out there, many of them are afraid of being too digital. Is there a risk out there of a company having a brand that's too digital?
I think so, especially in the B2B world. I believe in what's called the marketing pizza, where you have all the different slices of pizza or different types of marketing and create your marketing mix. And it depends on what you're selling, whether it's financial services, real estate, or shoes, or you know, toys. I was just at a toy show at Javits Center the other day. You know, depending on what you sell, you're going to want to maybe have print advertising. Someone talked about this earlier today. Local newspapers, still, many of them are thriving because people want to know what's happening in their local community. They want to see how Johnny did in the soccer game or the baseball game, right? You got to look at that. The regional newspapers, Newsday on Long Island, the Cleveland Plain Dealer, are actually, Newsday, I don't know what their numbers are now, but some of these regional papers are, they're still doing pretty well. But about 50% of all the news that people consume still comes from local television. I'm a PR guy at heart, and people still do watch TV, so I'd be out of business if I didn't. It's changing, obviously a lot of it's on demand, but so you want to look at your marketing mix, and you can't be myopic and say, okay, social or digital is my only tool. We talked about constant contact and email marketing, so you want to look at that, and then you guys have both said, look at the data, look at who your clientele is, and how do they communicate, and create your marketing mix that'll work for them, and that can ebb and flow.
To that point, I think that regardless of where you're putting information out, the message still comes down to that. It still comes down to the context of it and what you're saying. Regardless, if print works for your business, then that's the place you should be. It may not be Facebook. It may be any of these other things that work for whoever your market is. We have something we like to call a buyer persona. If you're selling to a specific type of person, make a list of every single person who's going to buy that product or service and figure out where they are. That's where you should be, regardless of whether it's digital or in print or in the public space.
Hazel's waving at us.
Yeah, I see that. Wait, but just say all right, you know what? Yeah, we've got, what, 2 minutes? Okay, so each of you, exactly, I don't remember saying what's give us one thing that we can do to protect our brand online. There's been some really big brand jacking over the last few days. Burger King, Jeep, on Twitter.
I'll believe it.
What can we do to protect?
The technical stuff, I believe to the to the software guys, but there's nothing better, like you say, football and war. Nothing better than a good offense, to take out the defense, or the best defense, a good offense, I guess is what they say. But you have to have outward bound, positive information going out about yourself and about your brand at all times. You need to be building goodwill with your followers, fans, and the media, so that if your brand does ever come under attack, you have what's called reservoirs of goodwill, people that you can go to help you dig out of that hole. I can give you a whole lecture on crisis management if you want to come to the back room, but just be proactive all the time, so when the bad thing happens, you can go to your friends.
What did he say? To be honest, it's in terms of protecting, right? In terms of proactive, particularly because we're talking about small and mid-sized business owners in the room. That's it. Treat people right. Have respect for the users, not just the data. And when the shit hits the fan, all right. All kind of this, but you'll have goodwill built up.
I think what I hear a lot from a lot of small business owners is that they're afraid of bad reviews. What happens if someone calls me out on Yelp or I'm a restaurant, I get a bad review? I think everybody here will agree that you can't run away from that stuff. You have to answer it. The companies who are succeeding at customer service these days are the ones who are facing the bad as equally as excited about answering it as they do the good comments. So you have to be aware that there's going to be people who are not going to be happy with what you do, but shying away from it or trying to just make it go away is not the move. The move is to answer it. You're not going to please everybody, but say your point, try to make right, and if you can't do that, at least you made the effort. And that's how I think you can protect your brand.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Why don't we give them all a round of applause?